This is my guide to self-love. That's what we're doing, a guide to self-love. Using, kind of lessons from these books. Bell Hooks is like a cultural critic and writes in like layman's terms to the max. So I would recommend all these books to anyone, no matter how much you understand cultural theory or anything. They're ultra easy to understand. I described in my last vlog kind of how I came to wanting to build more self-esteem, more self-love, and I think 2026, like the new year, is always a great time to go on any endeavor like that. So that's what we're doing. One thing I wanted to start doing more in my life, just in general, is when I'm giving advice or anything, I want to, try to speak from a place of like humility. I think it's just the way I talk, it can sound like kind of know-it-all-ish. I don't at all know it all about self-love. I am trying to learn more all the time. I'm trying to implement these practices in my life. I'm gonna start with All About Love by Bell Hooks because, well, they're all by Bell Hooks. I'm gonna stop saying that. Whether we are engaging in the process of self-love or loving others, we must move beyond the realm of feeling to actualize love. I mean, you've probably heard this idea before, love as an action rather than a feeling. And I think in the context of self-love, this is really important because I think it's easy when we talk about self-love, when I talk about self-love with anyone in my life, it's like, what does that mean? I don't know if I feel like I really love myself, you get trapped in that like feeling. But when you think of love as an action and self-love as an action, you don't have to worry about like, do I feel like I love myself? Something abstract. You can just look at your actions. Am I taking self-loving actions towards myself? Am I taking care of myself? Am I setting boundaries? Do I have integrity? By shifting self-love to actions instead of like feelings, we don't get trapped in this, aimless idea. To begin by always thinking of love as an action rather than a feeling is one way in which anyone using the word in this manner automatically assumes accountability and responsibility. One thing when I taught workshops in university for like younger students, helping them adjust to adult life, I remember one thing we would always talk about with self-care is not always like indulgent, like we might think it is, like taking a bath or getting your nails done. Like true self-care, if you're looking to implement that into your life, could be preparing meals for yourself when you're about to enter a busy season of your life. Doing something difficult now for your future self. These are all like actions of self-care that exist outside of, consumerism, I think. Lesson number 2 from this book is we are not born knowing how to love anyone, either ourselves or somebody else. I think it can be easy to feel like there's something wrong with me, like why am I trapped in this cycle of self-hatred or like lacking self-discipline or something. But endeavoring on the path to self-love is something you have to do if you want to love yourself. I mean, there are ways in our upbringing we can be taught that, it can be modeled for us, and for tons of people it's a path you have to go on in adulthood, and like that's normal. Bell Hooks also discusses how just because of the way we understand, men and women, we have this assumption that women know how to love, women know how to nurture others. When in reality, we're all just people with different experiences who maybe want to change the way we love, maybe want to improve it, maybe want to build our connections with others, with ourselves. We are often unable to speak about our need to love and be loved because we fear our words would be interpreted as signs of weakness or failure. I think about this a lot in, my life, my interest, my like intellectual interest in love and self-love, and my own, personal interest in being loved and loving. Something about discussing it makes it seem like you're some really lonely, broken person or something, when really it's just, I don't know, a little taboo. Lesson number 3. To love ourselves, we must have self-esteem. The wounded heart learns self-love by first overcoming low self-esteem. Okay. And then Bell Hooks outlines like the kind of dimensions of self-esteem based on Nathaniel Branden's lengthy work, 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem. Great. Thank you, Brandon. And I've taken these pillars. I haven't read that book that she's citing, but I've, just described them in how I understand them. Post-editing me is popping in to say we're switching to voiceover. This part only lasts 4 minutes. Don't worry if you miss having a face tell you things. These pillars, I wanted to note, are a practice. So just like any sport you would practice, sometimes we drop the ball. Sometimes we have to pick it up and try again. If you're beating yourself up over doing any self-loving practice perfectly, you're not building self-love. You're just indulging in perfectionism. So don't do that. And let's go. Number 1 is living consciously. Outlining your goals, learning your values, and living in alignment with them. This first pillar is not about becoming type A overnight. It's just about meditating on what you want and what you prioritize. Your priorities will reveal your values. Then when it comes to goals, you're writing this big dreamy list of everything you want, and you're thinking about paths to get there. This path is not something you need to refer back to and as like a rigid roadmap, because things happen in unexpected ways. This will just help you look for opportunities and people that are in alignment with who you are and what you want. Number 2 is self-acceptance. Letting go of dissimulation and removing the social mask. Dissimulation is major in this book. And I know it's not a word maybe everyone's familiar with, but it is about lying as a way to please others, contorting yourself into someone you aren't totally in order to manipulate a situation. This isn't any kind of malicious manipulation. This is just about wanting people to like you, maybe picking up on someone's energy and trying to manage their energy in the room. This kind of shape-shifting will make your soul so tired. And as you grow older and older, this kind of compartmentalization like poisons your body and your spirit. So yeah, I guess I would just say when we're unabashedly ourselves, we find people who actually like us. And that's great. People who actually want to be friends with us. Number 3 is self-discipline. This is something, the only one here maybe I've touched on before. So this is, for me at least, being accountable to your future self. Self-discipline and self-care go hand in hand. And I think the practice of self-discipline is mostly just that question, like, what would my future self be grateful for? Or what can I do for my future self today? Number 4, self-assertiveness. This is asserting your desires, your boundaries, and your needs without shame. Again, this takes some practice. And I think for women especially, it can be hard because of the social role we are ascribed. Yeah, I think practicing with people who are safe, who you're comfortable with, will help you practice with people who aren't safe, kind of starting off small and then learning to assert yourself everywhere you go. Number 5 is personal integrity. This is one thing I always looked for in other people, and it was a kind of big revelation for me the day I realized, wait, I need to have this quality in myself first. And integrity, I think, can be kind of elusive. It's a word I think we've all known our whole lives, but at least I didn't. It wasn't really like, it never really hit me until I was older. But integrity is all about meaning what you say and saying what you mean. Like, I had a friend talking to me about building integrity in her life, and she was like, often I'll say maybe to a plan when I mean no. This is kind of Brene Brown coded, but like clear as kind. No, I won't be coming to the bar later because I'm already imagining myself in bed watching the show that I want to watch or whatever. And integrity cannot exist without honesty, especially honesty with ourselves. Number 6 is living purposefully. Now's the time I reveal I didn't read this book. Well, I already said that, but so I have no idea what this last one means. I think living consciously is kind of a part of this, but I will take this opportunity to spread my own ideas, which is that you will not be fulfilled in your purpose in life if you're constantly undermining your goals and your qualities and your skills. As embarrassing as it is to be earnest, to not self-deprecate, to say, I want to host a radio show. I don't know what you want to do. I don't know what your goal is. But to get the disapproving, dirty looks or the judgment, to expose yourself to those things, to just live, I guess in alignment with whatever you believe your purpose to be, I think is really transformative. I think it's really cool and really chic to speak seriously and unabashedly about what you want and who you are and your skills. Be bold in your earnestness. That's it. Thank you, Bell Hooks. Part 1. Done. We're moving on to communion. I wanted to start with the quote 1 that I put in my vlog from this period, which is, if someone loves us but we're trapped by self-hatred, their love will never reach us. Like some kind of visual with that quote where I just see if you're like kind of like the Two of Swords tarot cards. I'm gonna put it up here. I'm gonna put the image of the Two of Swords over here so you can see what kind of image I'm visualizing, but you're trapped, you're kind of blindfolded by self-hatred. You can't see all the lovely things. Yeah, in this culture, we cannot determine our self-worth. Our value, our worth, and whether or not we can be loved are always determined by someone else. Deprived of the means to generate self-love, we look to others to render us lovable. We long for love and we search. And then another, yearning for a master who will set us free and claim us because we cannot claim ourselves. We can claim ourselves. Okay, lesson number 2. Success won't satiate you. All of us were encouraged to act as though the workforce, careers, and money were more important than love. There was no space for women to speak about our disappointment. We could not say that work was failing to provide us with a space of fulfillment, or that we were unfulfilled in our private, intimate lives. Publicly, most women acted as though power was more important than love. Bell Hooks does not advocate for not going to work. I don't know, something about this quote seems like a little bit like old-fashioned or something. Like, women want love. I think in the way she's speaking about this, she means, men and women and everyone. Like, we are, conditioned to think that something external can fill that, lack of love, which is not the case. And the next quote that elaborates on it, I think makes that more clear. She says, whether we do the work of being an astronaut, a lawyer, a garbage collector, or whether we happily choose to be self-employed, wise women know that self-love will determine the degree to which we feel fulfilled by any of these tasks. So no matter what work you're doing, fulfillment comes from building self-esteem, building self-love. Point number 3, loving our bodies as a self-loving practice. I'm going to start with this one actually. And when we believe that love will be waiting around the corner, if only we could transform ourselves into different people, or different bodies and whatever, we spend our lives trying to turn that corner. This is self-hatred in action. Female self-love begins with self-acceptance. Bell Hooks describes the process in which we learn to value thinness, beauty, whatever those standards are. And you could have a mother, a father, whoever, you could have anyone telling you you're perfect as you are, any of those kinds of messages. But one interesting thing I always find interesting in psychology and I guess the psychology of development is that we don't learn by those explicit messages all the time. Sometimes we get implicit messages. So if you're watching TV and someone in your family is commenting on someone looking old or commenting on their body in a negative way, those are the messages we internalize. So that kind of self-critic voice, the voice inside us that won't accept an appearance that isn't up to par, is coming from those almost subliminal messages in our home. And it's about making your self-compassion voice, the voice that accepts you, that gives you the validation you search for in others, by making that self-compassion voice louder than the self-critic that holds on to all those standards from society. Kiss for you. Saying no to any devaluation and debasement of the female body is a loving practice. Yeah, I think in adulthood, if you do hear someone reinforcing those messages, you can put your foot down. You can say no, and that's self-loving. We long for acceptance of our physical beings, to be admired as we are, even as we withhold affirmation from ourselves. This is the worst form of self-sabotage. We can start where we are by offering ourselves that gaze of approval. Mic drop. Lesson number 4 is about how to not operate from a space of lack, how to operate from a space of wholeness, and writing down a list of qualities, which is my own personal advice I've kind of sprinkled in here. I was way past 30 before I made that useful list of qualities I most desire in a partner. Now, again, this book talks more about finding romantic love, but I am interested in self-love right now. And I had done this, not past 30, I'm not past 30, but when I wrote down this list, I remember thinking, I don't know where I learned this, but I remember thinking, oh, if I have these 8 qualities I want in a person, honesty, integrity, ambition, whatever, kindness, understanding, I don't know, non-judgmental, these things, I realized I was oh, looking at this list, these are the things I should embody first. Do I have integrity? Not really all the time. Am I non-judgmental? Not really all the time. And first looking to how can I become more like that makes it easier to find those qualities in other people. So I think, yeah, make a list of what you want in someone else and then become that list. I think that's kind of the ultimate self-love advice, if I do say so myself. Lastly, I didn't really have a place for this one, but there's a lot about the feminine communion, women coming together, women supporting other women and all that stuff, not to be cheesy, but I think this quote emphasizes how we're able to be in communion with other women more easily when we love ourselves. Women who are honest with themselves and others do not fear being vulnerable. We do not fear that another woman can unmask or expose us. We do not fear annihilation, for we know no one can destroy our integrity as women who love. Thank you, Bell Hooks. I was really excited to make this, and I'm happy to have filmed it. And I know 2026, for me at least, will be filled with a lot more self-love, and I hope for my friends watching and for the strangers of YouTube watching. I love you, strangers of YouTube. Love you, friends. Love you, me. That's it. 2026 is the year of loving ourselves. 2026 is for the lovers, the self-lovers. Me, you. 2026 is all about self-esteem.